The Ñetas are not your typical street gang. Born in Puerto Rico's prisons in the late 1970s, they began as something stranger, almost noble. Unlike other gangs built purely on profit, the Ñetas were first created as a prison rights movement. They spoke of justice, equality, and unity, a gang that claimed to protect inmates from abuse. But behind the chants of solidarity lurked something darker. Whispers of strange rituals, initiations that ended in blood, and leaders who demanded obedience, no matter the cost. How does a group born in the name of justice turn into one of the most feared brotherhoods in the Caribbean? That's where this story begins. Oso Blanco Prison, Puerto Rico. An inmate named Carlos La Sombra Torres Ibarra unites prisoners under a single flag. He tells them, "We are Ñeta. A family, a cause, a shield." But that shield quickly became a sword. If you refused to join, you risked being disciplined. And discipline in Ñeta meant ritual beatings, blades, or worse. Within months, the Brotherhood spread through Puerto Rican prisons. Soon, the outside streets echoed with their chants. The gang wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a growing army. And with every army comes a price. Ñeta wasn't like other gangs. They had ceremonies, oaths, and codes. New members swore loyalty in candlelit cells. Blood was spilled on the floor. And always, they ended with a vow. La sangre de a Ñeta es eterna. The blood of a Ñeta is eternal. But here's the first inconsistency. If the Ñetas were about unity and protection, why were so many of their own members found dead at the hands of brothers? Some said it was betrayal. Others whispered it was ritual sacrifice. Either way, the truth was buried inside blood-stained walls. The 1980s exploded with chaos. Puerto Rico's streets were drowning in cocaine, heroin, and fast cash. Ñeta saw an opening. From behind bars, leaders sent orders. On the streets, young recruits carried them out. Extortion, drug runs, and silent assassinations. But here's what made Ñeta different. They wrapped every act of violence in the language of justice. Every killing, they claimed, was discipline. Every robbery, a way to fund the cause. A gang pretending to be a movement. Or a movement pretending to be a gang. The line blurred. And then it snapped. A young recruit named Javier refused an order. The order? Kill a rival in broad daylight. Javier said no. He wanted to stay Ñeta, but he wouldn't kill a man he'd grown up with. The punishment? A blood oath murder. 5 Ñetas surrounded him in a dark alley. They said, "You bleed for us, or you bleed by us." The next morning, his body was found, chest slashed with a Ñeta symbol. A warning, a signature, a reminder. Once in Ñeta, there is no escape. By the mid-1990s, Ñeta was unstoppable. They spread from Puerto Rico to New York, New Jersey, Spain, and Latin America. In each city, they adapted. In the Bronx, they blended into Latin street culture. In Madrid, they hid behind music and clubs. In Ecuador, they became so powerful that politicians feared them. But their message stayed the same. Brotherhood, discipline, blood. And everywhere they went, the murders followed. Here's where the story gets strange. Ñeta's constitution, their rulebook, spoke of peace, love, and unity. Yet case after case shows brutality, executions, and torture. Former members testify. They said peace, but they handed me a machete. Police discovered hidden Ñeta notebooks. Some pages spoke of brotherhood. Others listed names, targets for execution. How can a gang claim to protect while destroying its own? The answer may lie in their secret council. Behind every chapter of Ñeta was a secret group of leaders called the Mesa Directiva. They weren't elected. They were chosen through fear, loyalty, and blood. This council decided who lived and who died. They issued oaths. They collected tribute. And they enforced silence. Anyone who spoke against the council vanished. But the council held a deeper secret. one that would shake Ñeta to its core. An FBI wiretap captures a shocking conversation. Ñeta leaders weren't just running drugs. They were negotiating with rivals. La Sombra Mosaic in Spain. The Latin Kings in New York. Ñeta's leadership, it turned out, was selling out its own soldiers, sacrificing pawns for bigger power plays. To the outside, they preached loyalty. Inside, they practiced betrayal. And that betrayal planted the seed for the biggest twist in Ñeta history. Carlos La Sombra Torres, the founder, was stabbed in prison. The official story. A fight gone wrong. The whispers. He was silenced by his own counsel. Why? Because he wanted to bring Ñeta back to its roots. Less blood. More movement. But peace doesn't profit. And the council couldn't let their empire crumble. The founder's death was a message. Ñeta was no longer about justice. It was about control. After the founder's death, Ñeta splintered. Small, shadow cells emerged. Some wanted to restore the old ideals. Others dove deeper into drugs and violence. In Spain, Ñeta was linked to a series of ritual killings. In Ecuador, they staged riots so violent that prisons burned. In New York, they clashed with Bloods and Latin Kings, leaving streets soaked in red. The Brotherhood was eating itself alive. But someone, somewhere, was pulling the strings. Police raid a Ñeta safe house in Madrid. Inside, they find a ritual room. Candles. Blood-stained walls. And something stranger, a lavender scarf tied to a dagger. Former members claimed this was the Lavender Oath. A new ritual where recruits pledged not just loyalty, but silence beyond death. Anyone who broke it faced el fin eterno, the eternal end. But what exactly that meant, nobody dared to explain. Interpol discovers encrypted documents tied to Ñeta leaders. Inside, coordinates. Hidden caches. Meeting points across continents. But one set of coordinates stood out. They didn't point to a city. They pointed to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Why would a prison gang need coordinates in the middle of the sea? Some investigators believe Ñeta was moving something far bigger than drugs. Something still undiscovered. Here's the twist no one saw coming. Confidential informants revealed that the Ñeta Council wasn't just about crime. They were part of a larger network, an invisible alliance of gangs, cartels, and even ex-military. Ñeta wasn't just a gang. It was a piece of a global shadow puzzle. Their rituals, their oaths, their inconsistencies, it all connected to a higher order. And the Lavender Oath. It wasn't just silence. It was allegiance to something darker. A secret recording emerges. A Ñeta leader whispers. The sea holds the truth. The Atlantic will open, and the Brotherhood will rise again. Was it code, a prophecy, or a warning? No one knows. But one thing is clear. Ñeta is not finished. And the question that haunts investigators is this. What is waiting in the middle of the Atlantic? The story isn't over. It's only just beginning.